These are not the things that I learned in B school. I see marketing separately and sales separately. That's not how consumers operate. That's not how sales also happens. The marketing is happening at the same time as a product is getting sold. You have to see the consumer from a holistic perspective. You have to see the individual from a holistic perspective. You have to see human being as a whole rather than as sum of parts. So the point I'm making is all of you have to open yourself up to understanding these elements, the India at large that is at play. Okay, so I think a big task at hand, talking about my younger self. All of you are very young. So let me first start with, what has sales taught me? I mean, you heard the introduction, but a lot of experience from levers. I learned a lot when I spent 13 years in levers because that's hardcore sales and distribution. I don't know what's your understanding of distribution because as consumers, we see distribution every day. So firstly, India is very large, okay, and we are very traditional. Anywhere you read about India, it is difficult to fathom what does this population mean. Actually, we have no clue because we don't see this size in front of our eyes. Okay, nobody does it, right? Only when you go to Kumbh Mela now, maybe you can fathom what it means because that's the scale we are talking about. So when it comes to sales and distribution, it means availability of the product to serve the consumer needs. Let's say I have a product which is 10,000 rupee product. How many stores will it go to? And if I have a 1 rupee product, how many stores will it go to? It's not straightforward. It is a function of what price, who is my consumer, what TG am I targeting, right? But when it comes to sales, how do we operate? What sort of channels do you see today? How do you purchase? Primarily 3 big channels. One is e-commerce or quick commerce is part of e-commerce. That's how I would treat it. Then there is modern trade, self-service stores. And the third is general trade, where you walk across within maybe 100 meters or 50 meters, depending on where you are staying. You will find a store and you purchase whatever you are wanting to purchase, right? So availability has to be stitched for all these channels. So these are 3 channels which service the consumer. And that's distribution. But behind this distribution, who distributes? Most companies, most organizations set up their distribution. Okay, what does that mean? We have distributors who service the market, and within distributors, we also have sales reps which go. If I put together all the organizations within the country who send their sales reps, it generates a lot of employment. But then it also means a lot of people are involved. Okay? How do I increase my sale? Let's say a sales rep goes to the store and takes the order. Retailer will know every SKU, how much stock does he have in a general trade environment. Let's take a grocery shop. Will he remember that? The sales rep goes to the store, starts looking at his portfolio, seeks an order for that, and therefore takes an order from the store, which is serviced by distributor. And distributor is serviced by company. Okay, simple. Therefore, who all are involved? If I look at my own organization, you would have about 3,000 sales reps going across the country. Okay, right now. If I look at levers where I started my journey, they would have 20,000 sales reps or even more going across the country, right? So what does it involve? So if I have to increase my sales, what do I have to do? Generating demand, right? Generating demand is the core, but generating demand is not the only thing. I generate demand, but the sales rep does not carry does not build that stock. Retailer does not remember that I have to place an order for it. Or even if retailer places an order for it, the distributor is not carrying the stock, what happens? When a product is not available which you like, on a quick commerce platform, it is run out of stock, what happens? So whose sales increase? Because you generated demand. So what do you need to do? Availability of the product. Second, one of the biggest elements is when so many sales reps are going and every day they make 30 stores, 40 store calls. What sort of job they do? Outlet by outlet, same repetition happens. Motivation? If I make you sit here and read the same thing, do the same thing every 10 minutes, what would happen? You will be highly motivated. That's what salesmen do. So how do you motivate such a team? Incentives will motivate you. I'll give you incentive to repeatedly do the same thing every 10 minutes. You will be motivated. One day, maybe. 5 days, maybe some very hard-working person will be motivated to do it consistently on a 5-day basis, 30 days or 24 days. And not just 24, 24 into 12 months. Sale of the product is the motivation. Yes, it is. But I can go into a wholesaler and there is a wholesale piece, I'll come to that. A retailer will buy whatever is the demand in the shop. Otherwise, if I can sell all the stock, every other SKU, every other item will run out of stock, right? Not possible. Retailer will also not block his money into something which is not going to sell. So, lot of factors at play. But one of the most important factors here is to keep the sales rep motivated. If I have to grow, I have to keep the sales rep motivated. If I have to grow, I have to keep the distributor motivated. If I have to grow, I have to understand the context in which we operate or we distribute. When I say that, what do I mean? Competition could be tough. In Indian context, competition is tough. There is my toothpaste Sensodyne available, there is competitor's toothpaste also available. How do I make sure that my availability is good enough so that we don't run out of stock? Yeah? That is an important part of this whole piece. So that when the sales rep is going into the store, the order taking is done in a proper manner. So people are at the heart of this business. Okay, when I say people, now I have talked about 2 layers, distributor, sales rep. India has 11 million stores, okay, 1.1 crore. But the last store is a very, very small store. Okay, I will sell 2 units and I'll walk out if somebody is covering that, but nobody is covering that store. Why is it that nobody is covering? Cost of coverage is very high. So when you go to a remote place, let's say for a vacation and you still find your product, it has happened because there is demand for that product and it has traveled using the wholesale channel. So wholesaler is interested in selling your product, but it should have demand. Wholesaler will not create demand for our product. So again, wholesalers play a very, very important role in building sales for us. But demand has to be generated separately if before wholesalers can come and start playing that role. But relationship with wholesale, relationship with distributor, you could build it as a transactional relationship. I give you product, you earn money and therefore you sell. I motivate you, I show you where I want to go and therefore you sell. Yeah? There is a difference between the two. Like I said, if I tell you 10 minutes repeatedly same job and I just tell you that much, it might not inspire you enough to go beyond 1 day. But let's say somebody said incentive. Okay, if you do it well and no mistakes, I will pay you extra money. Maybe it will inspire you for continuing with this sort of stuff for 5 days. But let's say if I say that, if you do this well, it helps humanity big time. Right? I create a vision around why it helps humanity. You get a sense of focus, you get a sense of why my work is important. You feel inspired to do this, right? It is repeated same task, but I have created something else, right? I am part of a purpose which is much larger than my incentive or reputation as a task. So you're seeing the difference? Task to personal benefit to larger benefit both. How am I contributing? And maybe incentive will continue to be part of that. Plus, how am I adding value to the larger purpose, right? That is inspiration. And that's why people play a role. So how you project the same stuff makes a huge difference. So people are core. If I look at my team today, if I count everyone who's attached to my team, it will run into a large set of people. The brands that I sell are Crocin, Iodex, Sensodyne, right? if every chemist could end up using crocin in their homes, what would happen to the recommendation for crocin? How have I generated demand? Because I have converted the individual chemist into a very strong proponent for my brands, because my brands work. I have built a belief system which drives this whole thing. So are you seeing the big picture? So if I look at this as a family, the 10 lakh chemist plus my sales team is my family. So how do you define your purpose? How do you define what is the objective? If you are going to treat sales and distribution as a task, yeah, you will get motivation to do stuff only for a day. If you create a vision out of it, it can go a long way. Yeah? So that's the first part of what you can learn from sales. It is all about people. It is, and not just sales. Frankly, a lot of this is about people. I talked about demand drives distribution as well. Second element of this is, we are talking India. If it was this room, you are a pretty homogeneous bunch of people, right? Youngsters, nobody raised their hands and said, I do not use quick commerce. So pretty homogeneous, no difference. But still there are differences. Why? Because you come from various parts of the country, right? So India is not homogeneous. That's the second part in sales and distribution. You can't achieve the same distribution everywhere unless you understand the consumers and people there well enough. In my erstwhile B school, I passed out of B school before maybe most of you would have been born, right? At that time, we looked at consumer behavior separate from sales and distribution. It isn't. Consumers are everywhere. If we don't generate enough demand, how can you generate enough demand? By understanding consumers, right? How habits evolve, how people evolve is a function of the cultural context in which they operate. That's why there are parts of the globe which consume a particular brand very well, while there are other parts of the globe which do not. If I go to Kerala, Ayurveda is very strong, but if I go to other parts of the country, not as strong. What would be happening in Kerala if somebody falls sick? Home remedies, Ayurvedic solutions would come in handy, right? Because that's the cultural context. There are thousands of such nuances which are true about this country. If we don't understand that context and we say blindly go out and distribute everywhere equally, we should get sales equally well from all markets, we fail to do that only because we don't understand the details of where the consumer is, what is going to get me success, right? Though most of the products that FMCG sell, for example, what I sell, are problem solutions. So problem should stay the same. I sell ENO, acidity relief solution. But not everywhere the acidity occasions are similar. Why? Because food habits are very different. So we have to understand the context before we can conclude that this market is saturated, this market is not good for me, or this market we cannot grow. Most times we do not grow in a particular market because our minds are saturated rather than the market. The third piece, human technology interface. It's a very important element. So how does technology come in handy? Technology is that element which is a big enabler. Okay, and as you go forward, AI, I'm sure you are hearing a lot more of it, has to become an enabler. Can it replace human being? Very difficult, because it's the empathy, emotional quotient, whatever you call it, it is within us. And this, I can tell you, if I go to an outlet and he has had a bad start to the day, he might not end up giving me an order. Same way, if I start talking about his kid, if I remember, if the sales rep knows the name of his family members and starts the conversation not from selling a product but from referring to his family, it might just change the whole thing. It flips like this. So the point I'm making is, till the time all my retailers are human beings, a robot going and taking an order might not work. A robot is as good as an app. Okay, I don't need to send someone. They can place an order themselves. What will I miss? That effort. Intent is, I want to place an order. Today is not feeling like it. I'll not do it. What happens to my availability? Sales goes down. So technology is at least as of now, till maybe you guys evolve it to a different level, is going to be a big enabler of how we operate in the market. And it is. Human technology interface is going to play a very, very important role. So, two things. One, there is one very simple thing I believe in. Okay, I believe that every person who is working is motivated enough to perform better. Do you think any human being I'm talking, wants to improve their life? Yes. Fundamentally correct? When I bring a human technology interface, what it has to work on is to support the individual to perform better. No technology is perfect, but can you build the right ones, right features to motivate the team, to help them, support them? If you build that mindset, okay, I'm here to support versus I'm here to control, they are two different mindsets. The last part of this, what I believe the 4 P's is shopper understanding. In a general trade environment, what happens when you go out for purchasing? 3 formats. Okay, let's divide the discussion into 3 parts. 1, e-commerce, I'll come last, okay, because you are well versed in e-commerce. Second, modern trade or supermarket. Okay, supermarket and modern trade are similar. I'm not just talking demand. It's the way the product is available to you, right? Way you purchase. The third is the grocery store, the chemist store, etc., etc. Clear? This you have understood, we discussed in the beginning, right? Now, coming to third one, which is grocery and chemist store. So, when you go to a general trade shop, one key requirement if I have to win with shoppers is I have to remind the shopper of why my brand. This has to happen prior to walking into the clear? What happens in modern trade? What is the shopper inside? Let's say I put my brand on the bottom shelf. It's very less likely to be picked up. Even if you are coming with my brand in your mind. Because a lot of them will end up thinking it is not available because they don't see like this. Okay, what have I tried to tell you? If you can understand this insight, that is what will make things happen. Let's come to e-commerce. If I were to look back at my journey, I would say this is not what is taught in colleges right now, right? But this is real life. Lot of it we read or understand as a pristine consumer understanding case or pristine, let's say, distribution case, right? 4 P's, Kotler, place is easy. It isn't so easy. There is a push, there is a pull. It is a combination. When I put a product, and let me take some examples there as well. If I want to go to a village and only product available is mine, consumer has no other choice. So availability is consumption. If there is only one water bottle, one brand water available, let's say ABC you have never heard of, you don't trust, but that's the only water available in that place, you will end up consuming that water, right? So is it so simple to say availability will be driven by demand alone? If 10 stores within a 100-meter length are all carrying only one brand and your brand is not available, availability is consumption. So it's not 100% pristine. I need it at 12 o'clock at night, only one chemist is available. The chemist says, no, crocin is not available, take this, it is the same molecule. What happens? So availability is consumption. So you have to understand the context in which it operates. Push and pull both work hand in hand. There is no straightforward answer to yes. Most times demand, in most stores, demand will drive availability. Otherwise, Pond's cold cream will be available in 11 million stores, but it isn't. So it is contextual. It is not a straightforward thing as we think about. These are things which are not discussed. When we look at cases, when we look at stuff, they are very clean from context perspective. They are not necessarily built into India context in the right manner. Relationship between shopper and the shop. How does that work? If the shopkeeper says, sir, this item nahi available, this item is not available with me, there is another one which is available, what will happen? Trust came into play. This shop is whom I trust, this is where I purchase, whatever he or she is saying is going to be true. So, it works. Now, this is again another thing which you don't learn when you are doing dissection, when you are looking at what is the big thing, right? Now, this can become a big thing if most of the Indian shopkeepers move to this model. It's a question of survival. So, while I hear you, not willing to change, but this is more a case of survival. Quick commerce in Mumbai. How many people are from Mumbai here? Anybody from Mumbai? Chemists were delivering the medicine in home way back before quick commerce came into play. I can give a call and the chemist will deliver. And it continues to happen, right? Every store there, every chemist delivers in home. Why do they do that? How many in your parents are quick commerce savvy? Very few hands are raised. Whose parents are not comfortable or whose grandparents are not comfortable? So, a lot of people are still uncomfortable, right? Why are they uncomfortable? Because they still go by the same route of picking up the phone, calling or WhatsApping and getting home deliveries done rather than trusting, going through an app, placing an order on a Blinkit. So, it's one-way traffic. When I am calling a retailer, I know what is my list and I will give that list to the retailer. Retailer is not pushing anything. In Blinkit, it's still complicated, right? And I'll pay towards the end of the month. I'll pay if the guy comes, I'll pay later. Right? So, a lot of these elements play a role. So, the point I'm making is everything is evolving. Everything is going to be dynamic. It is going to change. And this change is happening as we see it, right? If you keep your eyes and ears open, you will observe it. If you don't, it will come across as India is fixed. India is not fixed. Okay, India is changing at a very fast rate. A lot of people raised hand, their parents are able to place orders on Blinkits, etc. Why? They are shifting. Grandparents, when I ask, lot less people. There could be still grandparents who still do that. The point I'm making is this is the reality of the country we live in, right? Dynamism, a friend circle, a peer group which teaches me. Kid teaching the parent might not work, a peer group teaching the parent might work. Reality? They work in their groups. So, the point I'm making is you have to be far more open. You have to have a high curiosity index if you have to decode this country from sales and distribution perspective. Otherwise, it is going to be mighty difficult. In front of our eyes, there are a lot of stimuli which goes through. We pick up what we want to pick up. Okay, you have to train yourself to pick up more than what you want to pick up. The reason is otherwise you will miss the insights. That's it from my side. Thanks a lot.